Ladies and gentlemen, ATDF everything in that shelf presentation. You're now rocking with TDF everything. Spoiled Rotten.
Spoiler alert.
Welcome and welcome back, everybody.
Hey.
It's me, Daniel,
And this is Ben
on Spoiled Rotten.
on that shelf.
Boom. Well, as you can see from the title, we have another special guest today. We are revisiting Spider-Man Far From Home, and we have Michele Gardner with us. Thank you very much for stopping by.
Thank you for having me back.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is fun because you get to do something that you should have done like 3 episodes ago, which is like we've been doing. We're gonna ask you your top 5 comic book characters so people can get a sense of like where you're at with what you like.
Okay, so and prefacing by saying that this is all movie based because I am not
like
a
both of our
comic.
like I'm sorry, I won't speak for Ben. For me, mine is mostly based on the movies and the TV shows.
Perfect. Okay, so Gamora is one of them.
Okay.
Greatly enjoy how I just enjoy her attitude. Like she doesn't give any fucks, but she does. And I really like I just enjoy her journey with Nebula a lot.
That is a great arc in the movies for sure.
I really like that it's interesting to watch her realize how much that relationship has been triangulated through their father, in quotation marks.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just really like it. But I also like how she is like so willing to give up her life for what's right, without even really thinking.
Yeah, like just making Peter promise to just take her out.
Exactly.
Pretty big deal.
Another one is Yelena Belova, I think.
Yeah. Oh, that is a new favorite of mine as well.
Yeah, she's great. And you guys have mentioned before how Thor uses humor as kind of a coping mechanism. And I think the same can really be said for Yelena. And yeah, that was the first time I really grasped the Florence Pugh of it all and how talented she is. Obviously I saw her in Midsummer before that, but it like really clicked for me how well she fit in to the Black Widow movie and the Hawkeye show.
Yeah.
I love that everything that she feels is really just right there at the surface. There's no bullshit with her. And she also just seems like she always wants to have a good time and have friends and connections.
I do
despite
like that about
everything
her.
She's been through.
The macaroni scene.
Yeah, she's clearly like she misses the best part of her childhood. And like I love that performance, that scene where she breaks down, where she's like all that kind of stuff. That's very, very memorable. Yeah. Can't wait to see where she goes.
Yes, I'm so interested to see what they do with her character. Obviously I have to say Wonder Woman.
Okay.
For so many reasons. But one of my favorite things about Wonder Woman was it was the first time I could recall seeing a character who was a woman and just as strong, if not stronger, than a lot of the male characters, but that her traits that were more stereotypically feminine were included and not seen as a weakness. And so there's so many examples in her first movie where she sees a baby and she's like, oh, that's so cute. Obviously guys should do that too if they think babies are lovely, but I just love that it's right there at the surface and she cares about her outfit and she it's stuff like that just I like that it wasn't made fun of in that movie.
I especially like, I think it's the scene where like they take her out to get her more contemporary clothing and she can't get through the door, and it starts off as a point of comedy, but like really you're just watching her determination and her like, no, I'll figure this out. And I really appreciate is exactly what you said, that she wasn't faulted for having not a lot of experience. It actually helped her for the most part. I feel like that movie does have a fatal flaw, but overall, you're right that she's not faulted for being as naive as she is, because it makes her push forward and specifically do the no man's land scene.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so good. I had to include a dude in here, so I include. I know
fair, we didn't
you don't
make
have to do
I know I
anything.
didn't have to.
You
but
You
I
don't have to
wanted
do anything. You do whatever you want.
But I did want to include the Winter Soldier.
Okay.
I find it really interesting, the whole brainwash and forced experimentation story to him, and how he can never be Captain America, but it's not really an issue. It's just he just knows that's not going to be the case. He doesn't really seem to want it. I really liked him and Falcon together in Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Me too.
And I also like how he's kind of always angry and never seems to want to be anywhere. It's just fun to watch.
Except for with Sam's sister. He seems to want to be there.
Yes.
He very much wants to be there for sure.
Love that.
Get invited to the cookout. That's amazing.
He really grew on me. Because the first movie, they're not really, I mean, when I say the first one, I meant Winter Soldier. Like, they weren't trying that hard. Like, you're like, yeah, okay, Bucky is obviously coming back as Winter Soldier in the first movie, but like, as in the first Avenger. But in Winter Soldier, I was like, okay, yeah, great, he's Winter Soldier. But every other appearance he's made, I've been like, all right, okay, I'm on board with this. And I think more than that, Sebastian Stan, like, he's gonna be someone that if I find out he's shitty, for whatever reason, it's gonna be a real bummer. Only because his roles make it really seem like he's picking roles where I'm like, it seems like he knows what shit is and doesn't want to be that. And like his interviews and stuff really makes it seem like he's open and listening, but who knows? But yeah, good pick with Winter Soldier.
Yeah, really strong stuff with the brainwashing. And hey, speaking of brainwashing, this movie has that all over it.
Were you done with your characters?
That was 5
more.
Oh, there's an
4.
honorable more. That was
only
4.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay. Damn.
My last one is Mystique.
Great choice.
Big part of it is I am just so obsessed with the way that she moves physically. Like, her movements are so fluid and just delicious to watch. Even her changing between her blue self and anybody else is I just love the way it looks. But on a deeper note, I think it was interesting how, she in the I forget which X-Men it is, where she gets cured by jumping in front of Magneto. Thank you.
Oh right, yeah.
That was kind of just the end of that storyline for her, and I really like that in First Class. I think I just like how they tie in how being able to change your appearance at will would make you maybe want to adapt to people's expectations and adapt to people's desires. And I think that I like that they included that as part of her character in that movie. And I just think, because it just makes you think about how easy it would be to fall into that habit if you could change into anybody at will.
Definitely.
Sorry, for me, one of my most iconic lines from her is just like when she first meets Nightcrawler, who's supposed to be her son in like the comics, but whatever. It's the idea that he goes like, but why do you look like that if you can look like anyone? And then she just like amazingly goes like, because we shouldn't have to. And I'm like, that's awesome. Yes. Her character takes a really, really big arch in multiple movies and all that. So I do have a question for you. Is there a favorite iteration or distinction between the two? Rebecca Romaine characters and Jennifer Lawrence. I was going to say
I don't
Jessica
know. I
Lawrence.
don't know that there's a distinction because they're the movies that Jennifer Lawrence played her in kind of went off the rails towards the end. Like I don't, yeah, it's kind of
through no fault of her own, though.
but I also, yeah,
Well, I
exactly. I
mean,
also
it
love
was her
Jennifer
fault.
Lawrence
She didn't
and
want to do it anymore.
yeah,
Well, okay,
exactly.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I do love Jennifer Lawrence, but Rebecca Remains also embodies the character so well. I just don't like her ending in it. So I
I
don't
mean,
know. I don't know if I have a favorite.
it sounds like you didn't like either of their endings, but I
Yeah,
think
true.
they both start strong, and it says a lot that when she morphs into Rebecca Romaine in First Class, people are genuinely excited.
Mhm.
They're like, "Oh, sick!" Like the confirmation that it's the same thing. I mean, obviously they go out of their way to make it so it can't be her anymore, but like, um,
Yeah, because early
that
90s to late 90s,
initial
there's a
showing of,
lot of puberty there.
yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah, and time travel is so hard to get right, it seems.
I do like the Rebecca Romaine one because she's so outwardly confident, even though obviously there is a bunch of stuff in there, like when she's trying to appeal to Wolverine, like, so how do you want me to look or whatever. But they obviously give Jennifer Lawrence a lot to do because they turn her into a protagonist, so you still get to explore Mystique that way. But yeah, I really like your list. That's a great list. Thank you for sharing.
And
So
yeah,
the interesting thing is that you did Black Widow with us. So technically you did like back-to-back movies because now you're doing Far From Home, which was the last movie before Black Widow. So that's a connection of some sort that people might find interesting.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think of that because it's it's a different timeline, but it's yeah, cool.
They were like years apart. Yeah. So yeah, I guess we're gonna just get right into the movie then. Everybody, what were your initial thoughts revisiting it?
I still greatly enjoyed it.
And why is that? For what particular reason?
I don't know. It's just fun. It's just I love all of the side characters. I love all the classmates and the teachers. Jake Gyllenhaal, I thought did on rewatching. I mean, I think I knew that Mysterio was a villain just from hearing his name as in lists of villains or something. But I definitely, the first time I watched it, was like, no, there's no way he's got to be good.
So
but then this time rewatching it, yeah, I really liked how it kind like when you rewatch it, you can see how he is just in the beginning before he reveals who he is. He's kind of just reciting like superhero lines and like I think one of the first things he says is when I'm jumping ahead here, but when Peter shows up in wherever their base camp is with Nick Fury, he says something like, I could have used someone like you on my world or whatever. And you could you could just hear that he's like, this is what superheroes say, right?
Yeah. I also really enjoyed revisiting this. I think as you said, I really like the world they built around Peter in this. It's not completely relying on you enjoying just the Tom Holland performance, which I think is amazing, by the way. But I think the fact that you can like MJ, Ned, but also the teachers and even some of his classmates. Not all of them are named this time, but even in Homecoming, I remember thinking like, wow, like they did a great job with his classmates too. Like you could go anywhere for comedy, and they kind of did in the first movie, and they bring bits of that into this one. Obviously, this is a bit more focused, but I think all of that's good. But I also think, yeah, when you I knew that Mysterio was a villain, but watching this, knowing what his game is, it's very and the second layer of not paying attention to the fact that Maria Hill and Nick Fury aren't who they're supposed to be either. Like it's really interesting rewatching and seeing like how Nick and Maria are played as people pretending to be those characters, and so like they react way bigger to the whole "hey, don't apologize for being the smartest person in the room" thing. Like they're genuinely insulted instead of what they probably would be like, which is I don't give a fuck what this guy's saying. So I just found that very interesting, the detailed performances, knowing that there's two. I mean, they're not major twists, but there are two twists to the story, and there's the Mysterio one that kind of hides the ultimate, like, hey, there were scrolls in this movie the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right, which, and I mean, this movie must be like the most direct foreshadowing to Secret Invasion, right? Like, I don't think, maybe Captain Marvel a little bit, I guess.
Captain Marvel is probably going to be a better example of that. I think maybe in the long run, but I mean, yeah, just the name drop of the Skrulls here is like, oh, it's building to that something more. It's just kind of that,
because this is the fact that Nick Fury's not on Earth, so like that is a big deal as well, that he's out doing other stuff.
Yeah, and I do like the fact that he reveals like he's been gone for 5 years, and he's like he's kind of insecure about it because he's like, yeah, I'm bugging a high school kid on his class trip to Europe, which is, and I like that they joke about this later. It's supposed to be a science trip, which is hilarious to me.
Well, I mean, I can't really take that as seriously because that's not Nick Fury talking. That's someone pretending to be Nick Fury,
right?
So I don't know that that's actually how Nick Fury feels. That's certainly how Talos feels.
You're right. This is the reveal that this was Talos along, right?
But yeah, Ben, how did you feel this revisit?
For me,
yeah,
I was just like, God damn, what a case study in like narcissism and just how manipulative Mysterio is. And I love that layer and element to it. It's just the idea of, you know, in the comic books and all this kind of stuff, he's actually got the smoke screens and all that kind of stuff that they're actual effects. But in this, he's like, no, I just need to make you believe that there are actual effects. And it's wonderful that they layer that psychology into the character, and how wild it ends up getting and how he preys off people. Peter's vulnerabilities, you know, like Fury's vulnerabilities or Talos's vulnerabilities or whatever. It's just everything. He's wildly interesting as a character, and just how he, once there's one small thread, how wildly he devolves. It's great to see this. He's like, wait, this plan has to be perfect, and if it's not, everything's going down. He instantly points guns, everything. It's wild.
Yeah,
I love
it. I forgot that he like at one point just turns guns on his whole team just to be like, we got to get this right.
Yeah.
It's I'm glad you mentioned that, because go ahead. I was just going to say, that helps it make more sense to me that the whole barf technology was his villain origin story. Basically, you mentioning his kind of quick to anger and his narcissism and stuff like that makes it mean more, I think, than how I initially, like, I was like, oh, okay, I guess that's the explanation for why he's mad, but that makes a lot more sense.
Right, because I feel like a big part of it is like I love how they layered that into the whole movie itself. It's like, oh, it's his thing. They could just like digitally put him in the back, the black there. It's like, cool, like that was his. But the really, really big element is like, hey, it's built off insecurity and how he has to overcompensate now. And then just like, it's his push throughout the whole thing is just really, really interesting to see how manipulative he needs to be and ends up being. It's great.
Yeah, that he wants to be remembered. He doesn't want to be the guy that listens to someone else explain his shit anymore. He wants to take ownership, and obviously this movie is right after Endgame, so it's in multiple ways exploring what a world looks like after the snap. Like I still remember how like wild it is to hear Aunt May talk about like, I appeared and then like people were like, oh, were you having an affair with this woman or something? Like just like it sounds funny, but you're like, no, like, there's like these real life like just like horrible things where you're like, hey, you're living in my house now. Like, and I know that Falcon and Winter Soldier took it more seriously when they were looking at it, but like it kind of just started this ball rolling that, and we bring up Quantum Mania again, like really starts talking about like the displacement of people that happened during this, the people coming back, and how you still see the knock-on effects, even though I think people thought this movie was not taking it that seriously. I felt like it really planted a lot of seeds that are still paying off. And initially saying in this movie, like, hey, are there even Avengers anymore? And like really like getting down to that level of like, there's a vacuum here, and like who's gonna fill it? So yeah, I really enjoyed coming back to this movie.
Because I like that you said planting the seeds, and I like that you said vacuum, because initially when I look back at this whole phase, you kind of like, this is one of the tail end at it, right? At first I was like, why didn't they just end it at Endgame and just start new? But it's nice, this thing where it's like planting those seeds, exactly like you said, being here's some more, here's where it can go, and here's more importantly the emotions on the ground level. Because it does set up a lot more to explore in phase 4, whether they do different jobs or not, but it is a very wildly interesting idea of displacement and where everything is. Because that video of like those the video of the high school kids disappearing and then reappearing, the way they edited that together in the beginning, it's I'm like, yeah, what would happen if that were, I thought for a second, I'm like, what if there's a chair where you reanimate and like half your leg is in a chair or something like that? That's
Oh
crazy.
my gosh, the way I thought of every bad scenario, like people who are on planes or on the highway, or like so many, it gets so dark.
I always say I don't like listening to the writers or the directors because they don't agree on most things, but this is separate because it's Sony, and they did say in their head no one came back in a way that would kill them. You might get hurt, but you're not gonna, like, it's not gonna permanently change your life the way you come back from the snap, is what they said. So no, you wouldn't come back with a leg somehow in your, or sorry, a chair somehow in your leg, or like just appear without the plane in the middle of the air.
So I feel like they're trying to sell me a lie that Sony has not been good at selling traditionally in the past. Like, I'll leave the lies up to Jake Gyllenhaal in this movie.
I mean, I don't know why. I mean, yes, you could go the dark way. You could just be like, okay, sure, that's how it happened.
I just think it's the most realistic way, because I completely agree. What if you're like,
well, yeah, but if you're Hulk and you go bring back
middle,
everybody safely, then that's how they would come back.
Well, okay, the safe element of it, that makes sense. That makes a lot more sense. Sure, instead of reanimating in the middle of a highway because you got blipped driving a car or something like that. Okay. That's fair.
That's a relief.
But doesn't do anything for those that accidentally got killed because of the bus drivers that got blipped, unfortunately.
No. If you died, you died. If you got blipped, died. You got blipped. Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, I guess we should go through the plot. Which I thoroughly enjoyed how things expanded. That, like, as you said, there's the video, the big up top, and like, I don't know what the guy's name is, but he's with Betty Brant, and she's kind of like, they're talking about like the stakes, like, oh my goodness, like this is terrible, like we have to redo school, we like some kids that we left that were younger, like he's like, oh, my brother's older than me now, and like
how does that make sense?
And like what is going on? And then it's like Peter's like, I have a plan, and you're like, okay, and it's just like, no, this is how I'm gonna get with MJ, and I'm like, honestly, I'm in on this. I think that was the smart take they had for Peter in these movies, is like really play up that he is a teenager. Like, don't just set it in high school because that's where the comics were. Like, actually be like, okay, what would a teenager care about, and what is the whole here in terms of like him genuinely being like, I want to take a vacation. I'm not doing Spider-Man stuff. I am done with that. I'm going to leave my suit in the hotel room. Let me be able to be a teenager for this like vacation.
Absolutely. And I'd like to think that Iron Man didn't do all of that to bring him back just to be
to not enjoy
superhero and work all the time as a superhero and not have any life.
Yeah, especially since he had a daughter at that point and would understand the benefits of being a human for a bit.
Can I also just say, there's something about, I don't even know if this is a real thing in American high schools, but whenever there's a movie with like a teen news show where they have actual anchors that are in the high school,
Mhm.
it's always funny. I can't even think of any other example other than the Princess Diaries, but I know there are, but I would like to know if that's a real thing because they always are enjoyable to watch.
I think they were for sure because I've heard like podcasters that were born in the 70s that did like school news in high school and would do jokes like that and get in trouble. So I don't know if it's still a thing like this, and that's just the effect of having those people who were that age write what is happening in high school now. But it's for sure it was a thing at some point, probably still is. Probably I doubt it's as funny. I think this movie does a good job of being like it's funny because they're so awkward at it, not that they're
Mhm.
genuinely getting away with zingers.
Because
True.
my favorite part of this whole movie is seeing the opening with Whitney and just the
Mhm.
editing, and you're like, what the hell am I watching right now? Because I'm like, this can't be the movie. This is so poorly edited. And you're like, oh, this is hilarious now because it's edited by kids. This
Yeah.
is great. It's so good.
Yeah, I think that I like how lighthearted the movie is
Mhm.
because it's kind of like you can take a deep breath after Endgame and all of the ramifications and all of
Mhm.
the buildup that we'd had to Endgame. And then yeah, you can kind of just take a deep breath and still learn about what the world is like post re-snapping.
Yeah,
And
without it feeling like you're stressing on it. I mean,
yeah.
I still feel like it builds like that moment where Happy comes like and he's like in like the Dutch flower garden or whatever.
Mhm.
And I feel like that
Tulip
is such
fields.
an like such a yeah, tulip field, like such a I think that's why I really like Tom Holland as Spider-Man, that like I'm completely in on him being like, "Oh, I have like a crush on MJ and this is how I'm gonna win her over," and like that anxiety to like the very real like I literally have no idea what's real right now. And I
Mhm.
again, they're doing a joke of like, "Hey, you rented a porno," but like if you're just anchored in Tom's performance, it's still very like unsettling to see that kid
Mhm.
be like, I just need to know what's real right now, and I messed up, and I'm spiraling right now. This is not good. Like,
Mhm.
yes, he got hit by a train, but he's Spider-Man, so he's kind of healing from that. It's more just like mentally, he got me. Like he has undone me, and like yeah, you go from like such small stakes of like, hey, can I sit beside Zendaya to like or MJ to I don't I don't have a grasp on reality anymore. I'm so out of it.
Mhm. Mhm. It's a very real phenomenon. It's I use the word narcissism because I'm like, holy crap, the way he looks afterwards, how he can't grasp reality, how he needs the tests, everything like that. It's just, yeah, it's effective. He doesn't, like he said, he doesn't need to change anything physical that you see. He just needs to change what you perceive in your mind as
Mhm.
real. And that's so effective. When he said that, I'm like, yep, that'll do it.
They'll
You
see what
can
I want them to see. Yeah.
exactly. It's and yeah, it's great for sure. But yeah,
Uh,
I like the low stakes because you're like, and then like when you said he opens with a plan, because I'm like, this is something that I legitimately have thought about as a kid. Is this is how I'm going to ask a girl out, and it's so elaborate and it's so stupid, and it's like banked on something so small that could easily sabotage things, like a dual headset adapter. That
I
didn't
mean, it
go
did
well for
work
him.
though. I
His
mean,
whole plan
it
was
worked for the other
predicated on
guy though.
that. It did. It did work
Well,
for
that's
the
because
other
he
guy.
he tried to get Ned to do it instead of just being, "Hey, Betty, switch with me. I'm gonna sit here."
I
He could
do
have just
love
done
that
that.
actor that does that. He has a
Um,
lot of time. He has a lot of time to shine in this movie. I'm glad he's here.
who Ned?
No, the teacher actor, the one
Oh
that
yeah,
ends up doing the musical chairs thing in the
what's his
Oh,
plane.
name again?
Martin
Something Star. Yeah,
Starr.
Martin
Yeah,
Starr.
he's
Yeah,
I
awesome in
he's
I
this.
so
don't know
fun.
why, but I'm just like I didn't really care about him before, like as this teacher character, but
Mhm.
revisiting this, I really love his arc. Like I really like the first time we watched it, I cared that he's like, my wife pretended to blip. Like, just the fact that it's like she didn't blip. She just was like, oh, here's my out. I can finally get out of this marriage. And that, like, you see that in the third movie, he loves Peter as well. That he's like, oh, you're Spider-Man and you're Peter. I love you. Like, this is, I don't mean in a weird way, like, just that he like genuinely cares about Peter. And like, it's so present in this movie too when he's like, Peter has an allergy, okay, I know what to do. Like, and he just snaps into action. Like, again, there's jokes, but it's like these, like, it feels like you're actually grounding the audience in some reality here of like this teacher that genuinely cares. And like, yes, he's gonna get in the way of Peter's plan, but not because, like, he's not a bumbling, I mean, with his camera he is, but it's not because he's like this bumbling idiot. It's like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's just like, oh, like, let me help. Like, I would hate for Peter to be uncomfortable this whole flight.
I do like the fact that they sell the like parental roles within these teachers and everything like that. He does so many things. He's great. He's a great character.
And it would be so stressful to go on like a transnational trip with a bunch of teenagers that aren't like, your children.
It'd be so stressful. How is it only just
especially in a world like that? Like, I know high school teachers do it all the time, but like in a world where there really are superheroes and supervillains that could get, like, I just don't know how you like have the confidence that you will be able to keep these kids safe.
What's the liability insurance on a trip like that now? Like, immediately after the blip and after Endgame stuff, it's just like insurance companies must be like, all right,
you don't have to wait that long at all. You just have to be like, hey, remember when aliens came here and ruined the whole city?
Oh yeah, you're right. That happened in New York. People saw like, that for sure.
It's like, sure, Iron Man fought Ironmonger, but like, I feel like once Thor comes down, everyone should be like,
yeah,
I don't know about this whole let's go travel everywhere and like just take people's kids places.
So true.
Yep.
And I love that he's always like, yeah, like you said, he's so willing to help, and he tries to be there for him every way he can. But then he's like, just so you know, I'm like totally not qualified to give you like counseling or whatever.
Yeah, I will, but I'm not qualified.
That's my favorite thing. He just wants to know how to support everyone. Just and I do like that he's like, okay, cool, I'm not going to be a therapist right now, because he's like, I'm gonna send in the paperwork to get you some of that counseling that I was talking about earlier, kid.
And I like that JB Smooth's character, I don't know his name, like that he cares as well, but it's also like, I'm gonna be cool teacher here. Like, he's like, look, I'm not gonna give you a hard time about it, but it is weird that you're taking pictures of Peter. Like, you should stop that.
You gotta stop that.
That's definitely something you should stop. Like, again, like a joke, but he's actually addressing the issue. He's not just like, hey, you're weird. He's like, hey, no, like, don't do that. That is a bad idea. I want you to be just having a good time. Don't take pictures of your like classmates like that.
You know what my favorite aspect of his character is that he's the science teacher, and he's like,
as a man of science, it's obviously witches.
It's witches, and like the entire time he's like, yeah, the science cannot explain this, so the most obvious thing is that it's witches. It's great.
I just like when he's like, did you seriously not look up the website? Like, did you not look up the website when
we were looking at the
I know it's out of their control because like Talos' Nick Fury is doing a bunch of stuff, but it was funny that like they get there and like in a normal movie, I feel like they would just be like, huh. But the fact that he was like, seriously, you didn't look up that when they were open? I was like, that's a good, like, some good attention to detail.
Yeah.
I really
that would
like
have been
this,
a
like,
good idea.
Yeah, his timing of, oh, that's a good idea. Like,
that's why I like the parental roles. You can see them being parents, right? You can see them being dysfunctional parents where one's just like checked out, but also at the same time being like, no, I'm going to fully check in right now to criticize you and just check out again. Because I love this, like, well, you're on shift one because I took some Ambien.
Yeah.
We're gone, baby. It's great. These two teachers, man.
Yeah, I also like that throughout Peter's being pushed, like he's kind of just like, look, man, like Tony saved the world. So you better step up. And I think in those scenes, like just the tears in his eyes as those things are being said to him is I'll keep saying it, why I really like Tom Holland, and I feel like I know people who just think this movie sucks, and it's hard for me to see it, like especially in this revisit with some time away. I'm just like, I don't know how you could like say this movie sucks. And I'm not comparing it to other Marvel movies. I just mean like it feels like if you saw the first movie, what a fun expansion on that world, like in the second one. Like yeah, I don't know. It seems like
yeah.
a nice second movie for this Spider-Man.
Yeah, and I feel like that's people not wanting to accept that it has a place in such a larger story.
Yeah, and that when you see the third movie, you get what they were trying to do. That this movie is like, hey man, are you gonna be the next Iron Man? Are you gonna be the next Iron Man? And then he does stuff that makes it look like he's gonna be the next Iron Man by like, back in black and putting his suit together. But then you see that they had a plan this whole time, that his trilogy was going to be like, he's a different Spider-Man because he has access to the Avengers, Doctor Strange, Nick Fury, but we can still get him to where he needs to be, but maybe not as a 16-year-old. Maybe he should have this support as a younger kid, and maybe when he grows up, that's where he has to be out on his own and like fend for himself. With still the knowledge of what he has, but just not the access anymore. And maybe that's a more rewarding thing to see, how he bounced back from that. But yeah, as I said, I thoroughly enjoyed this revisit.
Yeah, I mean it's a hell of an arc for the character for them to go where is that now. But you're right that they did have a plan. They absolutely did have a plan.
It's the same writers the whole time. Like that's the other, because I remember watching No Way Home and be like, did they change writers or something? But like, no, it's the same. I mean, there were more writers on Homecoming, but like these two guys stayed for all three of them. So like you have to imagine that it's them guiding the way.
Yeah.
And I feel like they did a good job.
Yeah. And for them, like initially, I remember the thing being like, okay, well, how are they possibly going to do one movie per year about each year of their high school? And then the blip.
Yeah.
And then I'm like,
well, it's all
well, you lucky bums. It's like this works perfectly now. And he looks age appropriate for his act. Well, good job. Good job for the writer, the meta writing there too. There's a lot that this movie does. I don't get why people give it the criticism that they do, but what are their expectations after Endgame is my question.
Yeah. I know I don't agree with them, but I get people being like, oh, he's just Iron Man Jr. But like, as I said, I think, yeah, they're leaning into that because he's a kid. And if he had like, I don't really believe Tobey Maguire was ever a kid. Like, I know what age they said he was, but he's like, yeah, he's a grown man. Like, it would be weird if he looked up to an Iron Man in that universe as much as this Tom Holland who looks like a kid does. And
yeah, I agree.
The Andrew Garfield one, like he's kind of just doing his own thing. I think a lot of people love him more than they should in those Amazing Spider-Man movies. But like this makes sense to me that like it's the only Spider-Man of the three that has access to what he has access to. And so that would definitely inform how he goes about doing what he does. And then we see in the third one, he's not going to have that access anymore.
Because
or at least to the extent, like people will know who Spider-Man is, but he's not going to be able to do it the way he's doing it now, where he can just walk around and be like, hey, Steven, it's me, Peter, come help me, or whatever.
Yeah, you're right. This version of Spider-Man makes the most sense because every other version, you're like, wait, you're supposed to be poor, yet you can research and develop web slingers, and you can do all this technological.
Well, no, that's
other
what
stuff.
I thought was good about Tobey Maguire.
He didn't have
so he doesn't have to.
Yeah,
he just
but the Andrew Garfield one, where it's like,
I mean, he stole it like that. They were just like, oh, well, he steals it from.
I keep forgetting that
Oscar
beat. Yeah, okay, I forget that beat from the Andrew Garfield one, but I forget a lot. That.
Yeah, it's all right. It's fine. Yeah, I think there's elements to like of all three of them, but there's no doubt in my mind this is the best Spider-Man because I feel like this is the one that takes the time to like really ground you in his world. Like, who does he know? Who knows him? And it's like, yeah, the Tobey Maguire one's like, yeah, Steve Ditko. If you like Steve Ditko, you'll probably like these movies. That's the sentiment they're going for. But this one, I'm like, oh, it just feels like it's actually a person you could meet. Like it doesn't
Right.
feel that heightened. It obviously is heightened because he fought Thanos, but it does feel realer to me and more palpable
Right.
because they always ground it in like his very real teenage relationships.
Mm-hmm. So one interesting thing about this is like, I think you said this at one point to me, and I don't know if it was on a recording or not, but you said something like Spider-Man's the only one where they write in that secret identity kind of plot that he really cares about it and all this kind of stuff. And they call it out in this movie where Nick Fury is like, you don't have to wear spandex on your face unnecessarily. Everyone's seen your face and all that kind of stuff, right? But here in this movie, I'm like, I still like it because he still has that innocence where he's like, he cares about it. And he still does care about it. But then later on, he gets this selfishness need. And this is what I really, really dislike about the character later on as I look back at it, is like his need to gaslight people into keeping his secret identity. He's like, no, it's MJ's like straight up, it's like, hey, where'd you go? You weren't at the opera, the 4-hour opera. He's like, oh, I got lost. Like, dude, what do you, come on. I mean, it sucks, but like it starts here and I'm like, this is the part that I don't like about him. It sucks.
And it really is obvious. Like,
Yeah,
she says at some point that it's like mostly just because she's the only one paying attention to him, but it's just based on the fact that this has happened around your class specifically a bunch of times. You go across the world and something happens
still using
again.
his webbing too, like, which she catches him on too. Like, oh, do you use the same? Does Night Monkey use the same webbing as Spider-Man? Like, I'm like, once you're using the webbing, it doesn't matter what suit you're wearing. Like, you're gonna move and do the same things as Spider-Man. Yeah. I think I don't mind it with a 16-year-old being like, these are the rules for me to be able to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm gonna do it. Because I think with the Tobey Maguire one that we talked about, he was just like shutting people down in a way that Tom Holland's Spider-Man never does. Like he's constantly on the verge of telling someone who he is because he's a kid and he can't hold it in. And I understand that he is someone who, like, if he trusts the person, he's just going to tell them anyway. Right. And this is the way he gives up right away when he's like, "Oh fuck, we're in trouble." Okay, yeah, I'm Spider-Man. Like, let's move on from that. Like, we gotta go. And like the way he tells Ned, because he just has to tell someone, and his Aunt May knows from the first movie. Like, I think what frustrates me when a Spider-Man keeps the secret is the whole like his best friend in quotation marks Harry in the second movie is like trying to have a conversation about processing his dad's death and he's shutting him down to keep his secret. Like that to me is way more of an issue than like a kid that's like, oh, I gotta do it because that's like those are the rules, and like learning that those rules are stupid and he can drop that.
You're right about that. It's more excusable as a kid.
And I think like, what fuels it to keep going in that scene is a very interesting wrinkle, which is him being like, wait, are you paying attention because you think I'm Spider-Man, or are you paying attention because you're paying attention to me?
Yeah.
And then needing to protect that part of himself to be like, then no, I'm not Spider-Man. And then to see what she does. I think that is way more interesting and less of like a control thing. I mean, yes, he's trying to control, but it's more like protecting his feelings as opposed to like, well, you would never be able to handle this information. It's more just like, well, if it's true that you only care about me if I'm Spider-Man, maybe I don't want that reality right now. And again, I understand it from a 16-year-old.
Yeah, and I think this is the interesting thing to me where it's very obvious in this movie where they try to be like, look, he's inspired by the people he interacts with. Look at the Captain America shield and the Thor kind of hammer kind of reference that they do. And later on, it's like, let's learn from Mysterio. Let's learn the idea of, hey, how do I make everyone forget something?
Well, I mean, he says it before the events of Mysterio, which is like talking to Nick Fury. He's like, I can't, because then everyone knows who I am. And like he says exactly what happens in No Way Home in this movie before he gets outed, which I forgot. That was a detail I forgot, but that he's aware of that. Again, I said, like, as I understand him thinking these are the rules. This is how it has to be, more than the other Spider-Men. Like,
that's true.
For them, even with Andrew Garfield, it feels like well, you just can't handle this information. And for him, it's just like, I have to, because then and it plays out for him. Like, okay, you know who I am. Everyone finds out that, and then it's not, oh, you're gonna get killed. It's you now have no future. You can't go to university. You can't do this because you know me. And the very reality of when the DOC is like, you're an accessory to his shit. Like, he knew that ahead of time, and that's what he's trying to mitigate. Versus, well, if I tell you, it's gonna get out to everyone. Like, I think there is a distinction with him, and I appreciate it more from him because it's short lived. It's not something that he sticks to.
Right. They do justify it in the writing much more from a consequential standpoint of like, see, this is why he tried to keep it a secret later on. I completely agree with you on that, but I'm like, I used to be like, I still don't like it. Still don't like that it starts here. Because in the first one, he's very, very innocent, and you're just like, yeah, he's not really gaslighting people. He's just hiding, right? This one, he really is. But I like that you bring up.
If you're calling it gaslighting, he's doing the same thing in the first movie.
He told. Well, that's true. He's just hiding, but like varying degrees. He's getting much bigger. He learns how to scale it up. But I like that you bring up the Andrew Garfield one and the dislikability, because I'm like, yeah, he's just his kind of guy. He just doubles down on the defensiveness. And he finds
like,
reasons
I promised
to be
your
like,
dad. I'm like, well, the dad's dead, and you're living in a world with her, so why not interact with her instead of the ghost of her dad?
Yeah, he's I mean, that is the flawed thing about those movies, but they're trying to do too much with the depressive angle, and I'm like, hey, it's not fun to do that with kids. And this movie gets
just have it be that he misses out on parties, or he can't sit next to his crush at the opera. Like, that feels very real and makes sense, because he's also not going to be like, well, I guess I'll stay at the opera. Like, he's going to do the right thing and try and save the world. But like, like, that's more what he's missing out on. Not like, let me just completely shut down any conversation with these people.
Yeah, it's the shutdown aspect of it's not fun. I do like how in the opera scene it's Betty that's like, okay, what? We're ditching? Yeah, let's everyone ditch.
I forgot that detail too, that she was like, wait, people are ditching? Yeah, that's a great idea. Let's do that.
Because like, out of all people, I'm like, I feel like she would actually be into the opera at some point, but then she's like, no, I'm like, no, I'm doing my thing here. I'm gonna have fun. I'm doing my thing. This is great. I love that character.
That's true. I definitely remember thinking she was going to be a goody two shoes kind of character. So I do, and I mean, who wouldn't rather go to that amazing glow street party where they had all these accessories for over the opera?
Especially since it's not even like that was a packed house, so it's clear people know that's not a great opera.
I also like how
everybody would rather be at that party.
It's true, and I like how JB Smoove is just like,
to be clear, this was not my choice.
Yeah. To be clear, this is not my choice. It's just like, there's nothing science about this. Like, I have to be here too. This is bullshit. He's great in this. I would have loved. He was like, I would have loved if he says like, I was planning to save this for the flight, meaning like another ambient through the whole thing. That would have been so great. But yeah, this character's great.
Yeah.
I also, to add, I think for me, it's so much more enjoyable to watch first with Ned in the first movie and then with MJ, the way that he brings, once people know, he brings them in to the fold and they're actively involved in his Spider-Man hood.
Like, even Aunt May is like part, like, okay, you're like my like PR aspect of like getting me these gigs where people will take me as their neighborhood Spider-Man.
Yep.
Yeah, the only time I remember in the Tobey Maguire ones, the only time I remember MJ not seeming to hate that he's Spider-Man, or like, maybe not hate, but I don't know, you know what I mean?
She does hate.
Like,
I think when we rewatched it was very clear, like, that was just a doomed relationship.
Yeah, it's just like, this is toxic. This is the whole thing. It's just gonna be toxic.
Go get him, Tiger,
and then she's like immediately upset.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm like, no.
Which I didn't catch as a kid. I was just like, yay, she said the thing I know. But you watch it as an adult and you're like, oh my goodness, she's just realized what she signed up for.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, That's disappointment.
Yeah,
She
it's just
is
annoying.
I've seen
to
that face
watch.
before. That's disappointment right there.
Yeah.
it is interesting to put that wrinkle into it, but it is like, wow, like for a movie that's or like a series that starts off with like this is all about a girl. It's like it's kind of depressing to now watch you put this girl that you said you looked through the ringer.
Yeah. It's just that one. I don't like the relationship angle of it because it's such a soap opera. This one is like, no, it's a soap opera just because they're high school kids.
Well, it's like a teen comedy. Yeah.
It's
like,
great.
Yeah.
And because like when you're at that university age, you're just like, no, you can't be acting like this anymore. This kid, no. And then still call each other friends. And he's just like, he just cold shoulders her all the time. I'm like, this is terrible. Stand up for yourself, MJ.
Yeah, this Peter MJ relationship is, I feel, one of the more rewarding one.
Yes.
Like, as Michelle, as you said, like immediately as soon as she knows, it's like, okay, now help me figure this out. Like we're working together. This isn't like, but like obviously stay back, honey, while I go swing off and do the adventure. It's like, all right, like let's go. Like she's I know that's to make it seem like a joke about like some sexual encounter, but it's like she's in the hotel room with him while they're ostensibly planning something, and so he can get changed and stuff. But like she is part of it every step of the way, and I find that way more interesting than having her, because in this movie she's only really a damsel in distress in a Mysterio like dream sequence. She's never actually, other than when she's with the other kids, it's like she's not used the way the Kirsten Dunst or Emma Stone love interests are, where it's like, wait, she's got to be at the top of the tower for you to save her. It's like, no, she's actually just a part of the action, helping out and not really standing out as someone who needs to be saved.
I think the thing that's interesting about the way they did their MJs were like, MJ was never supposed to be a weak character, but they made her strong in different capacities. Like it's just like, okay, this MJ's doing her acting thing and all that kind of stuff and trying to succeed in New York. Great, that's good. Emma Stone's is, well, not MJ, but Gwen Stacy is just doing the thing that's like, cool, you're brilliant, you're smart, you come from money. This is, you get your internship. This is great. Like you're capable in your own right, but both needed saving. This one didn't need saving, actually contributed to the mission at hand and probably saved his dumbass, because it was just the idea of like, she proved how much more capable he was than her. And it's just even the idea of like, wait, you almost killed Brad? Like the idea of like, yeah, you're a dumbass. You used those glasses. You almost killed one of your schoolmates. And he's like, that is great. That's hilarious. And he just casually like drops it in the bar a few scenes later.
And to that, I love the kind of competition between Ned and MJ. That whole scene I love. Yeah.
Which comes back in No Way Home too, when he's like, so like when MJ told you about him being Peter or being Spider-Man, he's like, no, I knew. I'm the one. I knew first. I'm his man in the chair. I do like that, because like, yeah, like he walks in, he's like, oh, okay, so I'll lie for you, Peter. And that MJ even says, wow, you guys lie with a bit too much ease. Like, that I think shows that she will make them better. Like, because she's like, yeah, like we need to do things and have a bit of anonymity that comes with secrecy, but you can't like, you just lie like that. Not into it.
Yeah, she's obsessed with telling the truth.
Yeah, even if it hurts people's feelings.
Which is funny because she acts like she just covers up her stuff all the time, right? So I'm like, you're acting deceitful, but you're obsessed with telling the truth. Interesting.
Yeah, we don't really know that much about her life.
Yes.
She tells the truth about other people. She never says she tells the truth about herself. Like that's
no.
She
Yeah,
says in the first movie when she's like, I like to like show people as they really are, and she draws the picture of a sad Hannibal Buress and stuff like that.
That is great.
Yeah, I think that follows into this, but she's a teenage girl in high school. Like she's
that's her.
Not giving you everything.
No, that's her defense mechanism.
Everyone's got a front up at that point.
Yeah, that's her defense mechanism. It's great. It's just like, and I like how they're like, cool. I like that they made her like the reporter MJ, where she's just resourceful and figures shit out and does things, and it's great. It's just so great to see this MJ.
Yeah, I really like them and like how they sell just the little moments that make them happy. So like when she says, "Oh, I'll get you a seat next to me," and when he says yes, like that it makes happy. But then when she notices he's clearly not coming to sit down, that hurts her. And likewise, when it hurts him, that he's like, "Wait, are you just interested because I'm Spider-Man?" Um,
Mm,
but then all of that is fun, cute stuff. But then that when they come together, that's how things start moving in the right direction for him. That he let her in, and she can help him move forward properly instead of him trying to work on his own or just with Ned and Jake Gyllenhaal.
yep. Yeah. He's got a good heart. I love
Yeah.
this character.
Yeah, I hope.
And I love how their kiss was so awkward at the end. Like, I
Yeah, it
think
was
we're
so
so
awkward.
used to the build up to the big kiss, and like, especially, I mean, the upside down rain, Tobey Maguire, Kirsten
Mhm.
Dunst kiss was like such a moment that I like that this is nothing like that. It's like
Yeah, like
just so
he's a
cute and
kid. Like
awkward.
they are awkward kids. And to my point of Tobey Maguire never feeling like a kid. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
true. That was not kid like at all. That was too he had too much experience for someone that's supposedly a virgin
I mean,
still.
yeah, like that's where they drop the reality to be like, all right, now here's what you wanted to see them smooching, which is fine. But
Yeah.
like, I like that as you pointed out, Michelle. That I remember watching the movie and being like, well, that kiss is not great. But then I'm like, I guess that makes sense for these two kids. That
Mhm.
would be their kiss. It doesn't really make sense that it would be this hot looking kiss.
No.
Yeah.
It's much, much more appropriate that it's weird and
Yeah,
awkward, and they try multiple times to get it right. That's what I
Exactly.
like. They're like, neither one is giving up.
yeah,
Like she kisses him first, he kisses her back, and then they kiss each other. I'm like, great. I love that. They
good
don't give
job,
up
guys.
on it. They're not going to let the moment ruin. They're like,
So
no, this is
real.
still the moment. We're just going to talk about the last try, the best try. Good times. I love Ned's relationship with Betty throughout this whole thing. Ned, throughout this whole movie, is just great. Wants to still be the best
He's a
friend,
great character. I
but
think, yeah, he
Agreed.
wants to be the best friend. For whatever reason, he does like to try and keep a little bit of a wedge between Peter and MJ.
no, he just wants to be, he has that insecurity,
Yeah,
He wants to be recognized. He has that privilege thing. He's insecure about it even before the MJ thing comes in, because he's like, hey, I'm still your guy in the chair, right?
yeah.
And I know I've dropped
I
the
mean,
ball a little bit,
to be
and
fair, like I would feel that way too if I was like, so you just get to hang out with the actual heroes. Like you still need me, right? Like we
oh
got
no, I
to
would
still,
totally feel insecure.
yeah,
I would totally feel insecure until the third one, where he's like, yeah, no, I actually do have a little magic. Cool, I can do my own thing now.
yeah,
Great.
yeah.
And yeah, and when your best friend gets a boyfriend or girlfriend,
Hmm.
it's like there's always that little
Mhm.
jealousy at that age, and yeah,
You're like,
it's
oh,
so
okay, so
good.
I guess you just hang out with them now. That's fine, whatever.
Yeah.
And then obviously that's heightened when it's like, and she knows you're Spider-Man. Oh, so like it's just everything that makes me special is now out the window.
Yeah. Yeah. You feel for Ned.
Yeah,
You feel for him, because at first Peter's like, wait, where's my friend? And then reverse happens to him. And he doesn't
yeah,
like that medicine. He
no,
don't like it.
I love him and Betty like how they,
so
they
good.
had like a whole marriage and amiable divorce in like the span of
Yeah,
a
that
week.
she still leaves being like, you're so smart. Good for you.
I would love if throughout the whole, not that this would have been realistic, but through the whole movie, that they had some sort of parenting project with
Mm,
like an egg or something like that.
Oh my gosh,
And then
yes.
toward the end, they just like talked about how to co-parent the egg. That would have been the funniest thing to me, because it would have been like, I would have liked to see how, like you said, that amicable divorce. It's
Yeah, that would have been a
great.
fun tidbit. And I love the contrast with Aunt May and Happy, how like they're weird non-breakup slash not really being together in the first place. Like the
yeah.
communication in
It has a summer
comparison to
fling that
Ned
grows
and
into something.
Betty.
It's like, or becomes whatever. Like,
On or off.
yeah. I mean, it really did make me sad that she dies in the next movie. I was like, oh, what a
Yeah.
lovely
Yeah.
like energy she brings to these movies.
Yeah.
truly. And I know this is shallow, but her hair and her fashion in these movies is awesome.
I
Just
mean,
have
yeah,
to say it.
why not?
She sells it
it
as
really
an aunt from
fixed,
Queens.
it fixed a problem I always have. I'm like, why does his aunt have to be like someone's great grandmother? Like, how does that work? Like, it makes more sense that she's this age to me.
So
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, why did it have to be so close to death?
Yeah,
I agree with you on that. It's
I
an aunt.
understand what they're trying to do, but it was just like,
Yes. It's
the
too on the
Andrew Garfield
nose.
movies made it better, and then this one I'm like, okay, this is the right age for me. Like, Sally Field works, but this is actually the look I feel like your aunt should have if you're 16.
I
Unless you're
would
like the
totally
last
agree with
kid of
that.
8. Unless you're like the last kid of 8 and somehow everyone else in your family died. And you're with your old ass aunt. But like, I was just like, okay, this makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. The old aunt thing is just, yeah, it was never working.
I don't know, man.
It's too on the nose. Like, we get it. She's frail.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah, it's
It's
just
like
so she's
you're
frail,
just
and
so
it's
worried about her the whole time.
another person, another female or another woman that Spider-Man has to save.
Which is ridiculous, because in the world of like super villains, you don't need anyone to be like frail, extra frail, for us to be like, yeah, they would legitimately not win in a fight against anyone.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like you didn't need to do that.
You can be as strong as Marissa Tomei looks like and still get taken out by a glider.
Yeah, you could be an Olympic sprinter and not outrun a glider. Like, it's just the idea of like, oh, we need this to visually represent. No, you don't.
No.
They just need to die on screen and let them have fun. This is more age appropriate, like you said.
Is she very old in the comics?
Yes, like, it's ridiculous how old she is.
It's stupid.
Why not just make it the grandma?
It should be great aunt or something like that.
They need it to be his dad's sister, or I never remember if it's the dad or the mom's sister. Like, it makes it less of a leap for him to be taken in by this family. I think that's the idea. Is that you wouldn't go to your great grandmother or your grandmother, that you would go to your aunt or your uncle to stay.
It's never made sense.
I guess
like,
Ben has to be the relation, not Aunt May. It's just I always forget about him. But yeah.
Yeah, but how old is Peter's dad then in that situation? Then
either way, this movie fixed it, and I don't have to think about it anymore, because I'm like, they got it right.
That's true. Yeah, I buy it. You're right. No, that's absolutely right.
Yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else we wanted to touch on?
Within this movie, I don't know. This is just a solid movie to me.
Yeah,
everything about
we
it.
talked about it the first time. I love the Mysterio. I went into it being like, I don't like Mysterio from the comics or the cartoon, and then be like, wow, that was effective. Like, that's how you use Mysterio. I thought it was excellent. And I'll say again, it really makes me like the director John Watts. Like, I understand when people are like, oh, it's all on rails, but I think that he's still doing the like teen romance stuff well as well, if he isn't doing the action, which I don't believe. But like, I think he just does a great job with these movies, and I wish he got more respect, because he's awesome with these 3 movies.
See, I don't agree with that criticism that people have that it's on rails, because I'm like, well, that's what it would feel like to be him in that situation, to not know what's real or not. Like, there's aspect of
that he wouldn't, that they already have the action sequences thought out for you in previs, and all you have to do is just be there to say cut and stuff. That's
what
the
they're
on
saying.
rails means.
I see.
Yeah, but I think that there's clearly an impact he has on these movies, given what we're talking about with the other Spider-Man offerings. This, and even compared to the other MCU offerings, this feels distinct, and down to how he casted the classmates, the teachers, the world around Peter, and that they feel like they hit when they need to hit. Like, when you pass off to Flash, he'll score. When you pass off to, what was his name, Abraham Atta in the first one, he scores. Like, I just think that, like, he does a good job with this, and he's got a good eye, and everything that I thought was visually interesting about Homecoming was expanded on in Far From Home, and then obviously No Way Home is great.
This, I think, in particular, I was most looking forward to the fight scenes here, because it's like all the acrobatics plus the digital crap that's happening in every sequence of events. I'm like, this is wild visually to watch. It's so cool.
Yeah, the Mysterio sequence
really
just works so well. Like, it's such like a gut punch when, like, obviously I know it going and revisiting, but just like really going on that ride with Peter of like, up until the moment he gets hit by a train, I'm being like, what is happening? Like, what? I have no bearing right now. I don't know what's real. I don't know what's going on, and just how effective that is, and all the little jabs throughout that, like, hey, if you were better, Tony would still be here, and having like the Captain America thing crush him. Like, it's all these like subliminal things that I think he deals with that are coming to life for him.
Yeah, he just, and that's why I use the word narcissism, right? Because they find your deepest darkest secrets and they use it all weaponized against you at your greatest insecurity, and like really really mess you up. And like the whole thing that Peter does in that, the whole what is real, and he's just traumatized. Like even in that whole jail cell where he wakes up next to those guys in the Netherlands, it's just like, is this real?
Nice.
Yeah, you're so friendly, and this is jail, and you're so friendly. Like his idea of like what is real right now, and the fact that he's like, hey, where am I? Just like that alone, it's like, yeah, they're speaking Dutch, but you would never be able to tell. So it's just different layers of everything being really really psychologically done in a good fun way, as opposed to the Andrew Garfield stuff where it's psychological, I get it, but it's too dark and not fun. This is fun.
Yeah, and I love that after Happy kind of taps into, like, he doesn't just tell him what to do or give him even really advice. He more just grounds him back in his own reality and gives him the power to decide what to do next.
Yeah,
he's helping without taking away Peter's decision-making ability.
That's right. Sportive.
Exactly what he needed.
I like how he phrases it as, I need a ride. Like he's like he's some kid that like got messed up and took the wrong train somewhere. He's like, I need a ride.
Yeah, can you come get me? I don't know where I am.
Yeah. Such kid stuff. Great stuff.
So Michele, you know the deal. We rank things out of 10. Give us your ranking for this movie.
I'm gonna say 8.5 for this movie.
Interesting. I'm going 9. What about you, Ben?
Oh, I'm doing a 9. I forgot to add in the whole element of like, love how they brought him to Europe, where his web sling is fundamentally ineffective because there are no tall buildings.
Needed to keep that stuff off of people in the canal.
Yep, 100%. But I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be fun. Where he's not web slinging that much. What are they gonna do? And they told a great story. Good times.
This is a great movie. I'm glad that we all enjoyed it. Thank you very much, Michele, for being with us for this. Do you want to give anybody your social media or anything you're interested in them knowing about you?
Yeah, the only social media I've really been using lately is Instagram, which you can find at Michele Gardner. Just my name.
Easy.
Nothing really to promote, but this podcast. Listen to this podcast.
Excellent. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, we're part of the That Shelf Podcast Network. Other great shows like Bad Gay Movies, Black Hole Films, Contra Zoom Pod, Springfield, Googleplex. It's coming May 23rd.
He winked as he said it.
No, I wasn't winking.
For everyone.
That was me twitching. That was
damn it.
Me twitching and being so scared. Yeah, please go to thatshelf.com for those shows, our show, more shows. We are on all the podcast networks, platforms. So please go rate, review, subscribe, share with your friends, follow. If you want to hear older episodes of our show, go to tdfeverything.com/spoiledrotten. Our email is spoiledpodcast@gmail.com. Our Twitter and Instagram is @tdfspoiled. So please get in touch with us. spread the word, and we will be back next week. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.
This has been a TDF Everything production, brah.